Hi and welcome back to Cheeky Crypto. My name is Nick and today we're going to be diving down into technical analysis on Chiliz. As we get into this video, if you find it useful and informative, hit the like button. I really do appreciate that. If you happen to be new to the channel, why not go ahead and subscribe, tap that bell, select all notifications, and in doing so you will be kept up to date with everything that we do here at Cheeky Crypto. Right, with that said, done and out of the way, let's actually dive down into the charts and talk a little bit around what is going on here with Chiliz. So we're going to start things just with the weekly, guys, just to give you that overview of the structure. Right now there are 5 impulse waves to the upside, and this is raising up nicely towards a $3.46 Chiliz. Okay, obviously the sideways trade right now is pretty much common across many altcoins, as we really are waiting to see what happens with Bitcoin. Now Bitcoin is approaching all-time high territory, and if that starts to break, I think that's really going to help trigger the market to the upside in a really strong way. So right now we can see that moving from our current position of 31.4 cent up to $3.46, that is 994%. However, this is just based on being relatively conservative on Chiliz here, right? And so actually what would happen if we were to actually take into consideration the trends that we've actually seen, okay? And this is really important when we talk about Chiliz and obviously what the project is actually about. Trends are going to be absolutely key. So could we actually push higher than $3.46? And well, this is actually very possible if we take the trend of wave 2 low, the wave 3 high, and then actually we go ahead and take into consideration this recent pullback that we've had with wave 4. When we do this, that actually shows us moving up to $4.10. So a little bit of an overextension than our more conservative $3.46. Okay, so I think ultimately, yeah, $3.46 if you want to be nice and safe in the space. I think that's relatively comfortable, 994%. Based on what Chiliz is and what they're actually trying to do, that actually feels pretty much in line with my expectations of the 5th wave moving up to the upside. FOMO and money coming into the crypto space is about to get crazy, guys, as that crypto market really does pop to the upside. We're talking trillions of dollars flowing into this market. And I mean, when I mean trillions of dollars, what I truly mean is theoretical market cap dollars, okay, not real money, but a notion of money, the price of cryptocurrencies. That market capitalization will grow to about $9 trillion by the end of this bull run, in thereabouts, between 6 and 9 trillion. Okay, that seems like a vast gap, but it's between there. It really depends on the level of FOMO, but people will not be researching. They're just going to be throwing money in, gambling on cryptocurrencies, as everything is popping to the upside in an absolutely insane way. And when it comes to what Chiliz is trying to do, that level of FOMO is going to be insane. So moving from 31 cent up to $4.10 is pretty much the extreme of the upper end of where I do anticipate this going. That is based on the trend of wave 2, 3, and 4. And again, that shows us where that could potentially go. Now, for me, the conservative, just looking at the performance of wave 3 and 4, showing $3.46, lock in those profits, keep a little bit in the bag if you want for overextending into that $4.10 range, and obviously cash out there, accumulate during the bear market ahead of where things are going next, right? So ultimately, the structure of this weekly chart's looking pretty good. We've got some good price expectations associated with the growth of Chiliz over the next couple of months as we think about ending this bull run in early 2022 for these altcoins. So ultimately everything's looking pretty good, right? So let's actually jump down into our daily and take a look at what's going on here. Obviously, this sideways trading that's been going on is very frustrating for many. Obviously, we can take a look at that stochastic lowering down into the lower bound and basically looking for another big move to the upside, right? So this is pretty something that's pretty comfortable for us to see. And again, you know, something that we should be looking at quite comfortably as we continue this growth to the upside overall. Now, as at this point, we can obviously see the Fibonacci in more details, and we obviously see the $3.46 and all the targets associated with that. Obviously, the main battle that we really want to be focusing in on is going to be the 64 cent, 71 cent, and 77 cent area, as this is really what the area that we want to be battling our way through, getting that FOMO activity flowing for Chiliz. Ultimately, this is where most of the consolidation is most likely to actually occur, and the main battle before we actually get that closed candle above 77.6 cent. Once we get that closed candle, that is really where we start to push up into all-time high territory and really think about those key areas that we want to be trading and where you're going to find resistance in the next leg. Ultimately, we are looking pretty good with some good traction potentially on the horizon here as we lower that stochastic to the oversold area, ready to pop to the upside. When we actually break this down over the period of time, we can see that this was a low point, this was a higher low point, this was a higher low point, and this was a higher low point. So right now, considering where we are on our stochastic RSI, we're about ready to push up to the upside again and ready to set another higher low on this journey as we approach the 618, coming in at 64.5 cents. So on this daily chart, everything's looking pretty good, right? But what about that underlying value? What about the data that's not really easily seen from the charts? This is where advice.io comes in. Okay, so we're going to load up Chiliz here, and we're going to basically take a look at the underlying value of Chiliz, right? So if you're unfamiliar with advice.io, they use artificial intelligence and machine learning to help us understand the underlying value of cryptocurrencies. We're taking a look at Chiliz here, and it helps us understand what the sentiment is like in the market. There's a link in the description down below. It's completely free to use and sign up, so why not? You won't regret it, in my opinion. This artificial intelligence has been right more times than I can count. So let's actually get into this and see exactly what's going on. We're a B2 rating overall, no change in the last 24 hours, which is good to see. As we come down, we have got 𝗕𝗓𝗪 ratio here, a rating of D. So 𝗕𝗓𝗪 is your liquidity rating, and basically a rating of D is indicating that it's poor liquidity right now. So buying and selling Chiliz could potentially be difficult. And again, as we come across, we have a fear and greed index at B2. This is actually pretty neutral. So when you talk about Bitcoin's fear and greed index, it's usually pretty greedy, but here the artificial intelligence is breaking down the sentiment and taking a look at Chiliz in detail, and we can see that we're a B2 rating, pretty neutral for Chiliz, okay? Not greedy, not fearful, so it's not too bad. The Sharpe ratio is an A2, just hovering above the 50-day average. This is borderline showing us the rewards outweighing the risk, but again, where we are right now is the opportunity ahead of where we're potentially going. The artificial intelligence is saying, yes, it's an A2, so the rewards do outweigh the risks. We might want some exposure to Chiliz, but at the same time, when we actually follow this 50-day graph, we're right on the cusp of actually dropping below that 50-day average, so we want to be mindful over that. The profitability is an A1, obviously, with everything else that's been going on. The crypto market this particular year, it has popped nicely to the upside with good progress. So an A1, the best rating that you can see here on the platform for profitability. So overall, the liquidity is potentially a bit of a barrier to allowing us to really move in huge waves to the upside. But I do anticipate that the liquidity-based problems are going to resolve shortly. And again, the Sharpe ratio is something that we want to be mindful of. But again, the opportunity is here at these particular prices, right? So as we lower that stochastic, and we're consolidating nicely here with a series of higher lows, it's an interesting time. Now, if we jump down into our hourly, this is where we actually start to see some interesting patterns emerging, and why we could actually be on the cusp of a huge spike to the upside. So right down here, pretty much from early September, we started to see this pull back down, and we started to push up, and then we pulled back down again, right? Basically, August we started, and October we started to push up, then we pulled back down, right? So what is this pattern? Well, it's really clear to see that this is an inverse head and shoulders, right? So basically, I'll draw this in a really neat way, and to try to keep it as neat as I can, so it makes a lot of sense to you guys. So basically, what we have here is a left shoulder. We come up, we come down for the head. Now, I'm not going to draw it like spot on to the actual handles. I'm going to try to keep it centralized if I can. And as we come up, we can obviously see that we basically come. If I can actually get this on the cusp here, so we actually pull up for completing the head. We pull down into the right shoulder just here, and I'm going to pop that right there, and then we're going to look to push this up, and then basically an inverse head and shoulder pattern. Now, this is not yet completed. We still got to come up to this neckline, but once we do, this is where you start to see a huge push to the upside, right? So basically, once we breach this neckline, that's where we start to really think about exploding to the upside in a really strong way, potentially coming up past some of these major resistance lines. Now, when it comes to this, obviously we want to be paying attention to, first of all, completing this pattern here, and then really getting that break to the upside and really pushing up to the upside in a really strong way. Obviously, we are not there yet, so we are anticipating that push first. Taking a look at the stochastic, we are, of course, in an oversold area, just coming out of this, so we've got that growth opportunity. But as we said, with the underlying data, with the 𝗕𝗓𝗪𝗪 ratio being a liquidity of D, the market being relatively neutral is not a problem, but obviously with the buying and selling potentially being problematic, we obviously want to be aware that it might take some time to actually complete this, and then obviously that liquidity-based problem will have to be resolved if we really want to see that good push to the upside from this neckline. So ultimately, with Chiliz here, this inverse head and shoulders is looking very good, a pretty attractive proposition ahead of where we are going to go next. Now, this might actually be a part of a much bigger play, but right now on the smaller time frames, this looks like a pretty good move that we could potentially be coming back up to the previous area that we were at around that kind of 45 cent to 46 cent area of resistance, on pushing on nicely to the upside. Again, we have got that first set of resistance at 41, so do expect it to be not a clear break to the upside, but full of many different kind of barriers that we work our way through before breaching them and then working our way up. Nothing moves in straight lines. There's always waves, so watch out for that. But ultimately, everything on here is actually looking pretty good for the next kind of week or so to look pretty bullish as we continue that push to the upside overall. I know that lots of people will be pleased to see that we'll actually leave this red area on the chart and progress nicely to the upside. If we're ever in doubt, we do zoom out. We pay attention to what's actually been going on with the weekly chart. Consider the weekly chart a bit of a cheat sheet and allows you to kind of see the structure of where we're going without having to worry about all those micro movements on the hourly, the 15-minute, the 5-minute charts, whatever else you're seeing out in the social spaces. But ultimately, be aware that ultimately, that weekly chart is going to help you really stay adhere to your strategy with that longer term play, with understanding where we're going slightly longer term. Now, guys, hopefully you have found this video useful and informative. If you have, hit the like button. I really do appreciate that. If you're happy to be new to the channel, why not go ahead and subscribe, tap that bell, select all notifications, and in doing so, you will be kept up to date with everything that we do here at Cheeky Crypto. With this said, done, and out of the way, I hope everyone has a fantastic day, and I'll catch you all in the next one.